Let's say you're working on a sick house banger, but your kick just isn't hitting right. Try to add a little bit of processing. Why not? You put a compressor on there, maybe a glue compressor. I don't know, maybe couple EQs, channel EQ, EQ8, maybe do a little something like that, or threshold. There we go, and then you do more of this, and then I don't know, maybe you need more chains. Okay, so check it. The first producing habit I had to unlearn is avoiding clipping at any costs. Clipping or going into the red basically means going above 0 dB on any track. Now, I'm not saying you gotta clip Derek's piano recital, but if you're trying to make some stupid, ignorant music like this, oh shit! Clipping ain't actually so bad. So what's actually going on when we clip? Well, let me demonstrate first with a really basic sound. Sine wave sounds like this, and let's actually look at it with the oscilloscope here. So we've got our trusty, beautiful round sine wave, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run it through a saturator on the digital clip setting. This basically simulates what's going on when you clip or going into the red on any track in Ableton. So watch this. I'm gonna crank the drive on the saturator, and all of a sudden, our beautiful, soft, round sine turns it into an ugly, angular square wave. It's essentially chopping off the tops and bottoms of the waveform, turning that sine wave into a square. And what that's doing is it's making the sound super bright, beautiful, and buzzy by adding a bunch of harmonics to it. So we can actually take a look at that with the spectrum. If I put the drive back down, we just got that one single fundamental. As soon as I crank the drive, we're getting all sorts of crazy harmonics over the top. But I would argue an even more powerful side effect is how it reduces peaks of a sound. So check it out. I have this stupid drum loop, sounds kind of like this. Now let me turn the saturator on and off. See how much the green volume bars jump up with it off. We're almost at the tippy top there. And then back on. Now check it out, it's totally squashed the peaks, the loudest parts of the drum loop. So it's essentially working as a sort of limiter or compressor. By turning down the loud parts of the sound, we're allowed to crank up the volume of the drums overall and get a super loud, in-your-face drum sound. Modern electronic music wants to be ridiculously loud, super in your face, so clipping is actually a great way of getting there. The second bad habit I had to overcome is processing the shit out of my drum sounds.
Duplicate this chain, more chains.
Instead of maybe putting a ridiculous amount of processing on your kicks, maybe just, I don't know, pick a different kick sample. Try finding a not shit kick, put that in the drum rack, and get rid of all this hootenanny, and what do you know? It's not shit! Alright, so we know now not to process the shit out of our drum sounds anymore. Let's take it back to that sweet rhythm track I was playing earlier. Now, we already discussed that this track sounds amazing, but here's the sitch. I only have 8 bars of this shit. What the heck am I supposed to do now? Well, that brings me to bad habit number 3, contracting loopitis. Loopitis is a disease where you just spend all your creative juices on the first 8 bars of your track and you have nowhere to go from there. Now, there's a couple ways you can get out of it. For example, in my You Suck at Drums series, I'm always starting with at least 4 different drum clips at different energy levels. That way, we have 4 different jumping off points to start our song with. You can't put your eggs all in one basket. There's just too many baskets. And finally, it's important to understand that with every new song you start, there's a honeymoon phase. It's fresh, it's exciting, you're not disgusted by each other's weird habits yet. That is where most of the important work can be done. So don't squander it by putting a ridiculous number of effects on your drums or perfecting the mix and master on your first 10 seconds of your track. Use that time wisely and try to get the broad strokes in first before getting in on the details. Wowzers. Alright, so let's say you finally overcome loopitis. What's next? Well, bad habit number 4 is not using a reference track. A reference track is a song by another artist similar to the style or genre you're going for that you want your track to kind of emulate or sound like. For example, if we go back to my rhythm track right here, I've got a loopitis track in there called Follow Your Heart. I'll always put a loudness meter on the master. I'm using the UNLEARN loudness meter here. It's free. And what I'm paying attention to here is the integrated LUFS. That's basically the average loudness of my song versus the reference track. And I kind of want them to match because I want my song to be at the loudness standard of the genre that I'm in. So if we listen back to my track, let's reset this. I'm coming in at around -5-ish. And then if we listen to good old Leo here, all right, pretty much on point. Sometimes I'll turn down the reference track to match the loudness of my song if I'm not yet at the mastering stage. Whatever you need to do to make the comparison between the two tracks easier. Another thing I like to do is have a spectrum on the master. I'll usually reset it like this. I'll click on auto here to turn that auto resizing function off, and then I'll use these sliders to zoom in on the low end. That way I can see exactly how much sub is in the reference track and use that information to turn up or down the sub on my song. So it looks like they're peaking around, I don't know, -4-ish dB. Let's listen back to my track. And I'm a little bit higher, but sort of in the ballpark, so we're chilling there. So you can kind of see how useful reference tracks can be from a mixing perspective, but even more so, they might be useful from an arrangement perspective. What I'm going to do next now is use the locators in the arrangement view to mark the different sections of the song. So just right click here, add locator, intro, move that to the left. Let's go over here. Okay, looks like we're doing the build up there, so we'll add another locator called build up. Build up, build up, build up, build up. Even more build up, so let's just call this build up part 2. And then finally, locator there, fucking sick. And now I have a map to approach the arrangement of my song. If I just follow the blueprint that the loopitis track gave me, it takes a lot of the guesswork out of arranging. Alright, so you've arranged out your track, you've completed your mix, you've conquered loopitis, you're finally ready to show off your shit song to your boys and your friend's 2002 Camry. So you ask him to pass the aux, your song comes on, and it sounds terrible. I mean, there's like no bass, bro. Well, bad habit number 5 is trying to make your song sound good on every system, okay? There's just some really terrible speaker systems out there. Speakers that no matter what you do, it's gonna sound like shit. So instead of trying to make mixing decisions on a bunch of different systems that you barely even know, try to stick to 1 or 2 systems that you know like the back of your hand and really only mix or pay attention on those. And even if you are trying to mix on maybe not the best headphones, that's okay. As long as you're using reference tracks, if the reference tracks sound terrible, all you have to do is make your track sound terrible in the exact same way, and you are good. So the next time you put on one of your shit songs for the boys in the Camry and it sounds terrible, just know that you can always tell yourself it's probably the car. Wowzers. Thanks for watching. If you liked the videos and want to support, feel free to check out my Patreon or join my Discord to gain access to a community of like-minded producers. I'm Underbelly. Have a great day.